these pseudolithos cubiformis seedlings are almost exactly 12 months old now. They survived their first winter, and I thought I'd use this occasion to, well, guide you through my process, how I grow pseudolithos from seed. Let's dive right into it. I bought some pseudolithos cubiformis seeds, and today we are going to plant them together. So I bought them, in case you are interested, I bought them from Cubiformis in Germany. They sometimes have some pseudolithos seeds. I think they have cubiformis, migoritinis, and I am not sure if they have a different kind. Anyway, I bought these cubiformis seeds, and let's put them into soil. So I already prepared a pot here with a nice drainage layer of pure pumice, and now we are going to fill this up with a mix of yet more pumice, but there's also a little bit of perlite, as you can see, a little bit of perlite in it, a little bit of sand. So from my experience, this species needs, well, they can basically grow in pure pumice, and if you have mature plants, that's basically what you grow them in. So they don't need a lot, but the seedlings, well, they need a little bit of sustenance, I guess. So in this case, I mixed in some sand and some perlite. Next, I'm going to add, and dust this with a little bit of vermiculite, just a thin little layer to add a little bit of extra moisture retention here in the very top layer. Next, I'm going to let the whole mixture soak through here in the sink. And once all the excess water has been drained off, we can already plant the seeds. So they probably should stay in this pot for a year before you can transplant them. And by that time they will be around 1 centimeter wide, 1 centimeter wide. So consider that when you sow the seeds. And since they are actually quite large, you can see how large the little seeds here are. You can, well, that didn't work out. You can actually plant them individually. So try to space them out a little bit, and so each little plant has enough room to grow. So just in case, here's a close-up of the seeds. See, they are actually quite big. And then in the last step, I'm going to lightly cover the seeds with a thin layer of, this is quartz sand, pure quartz sand, quite not too small. So I think the pebble size is like 2 millimeters or so, 2 to 3. I'm gonna lightly add a little top layer here. This will ensure that the young seedlings will find purchase and not topple over. And then you can put it into your germination tent or into, well, I'm going to use a Ziploc bag. They need it warm, so it should be at least 20 degrees Celsius when you plant them. And the mature plants also need that, at least that temperature to be watered. So there you have it, and now I'm going to put this pot here into the shadows, somewhere where it's warm but shadow. So absolutely no direct sunlight, just pure shadow. So just in case you were wondering, I have this one north-facing window here that absolutely sees no direct sunlight during the whole day, and that's where I placed my pot. So 4 days later, almost all of my pseudolithos cubiformis have germinated. I don't know how well you can see it here through the foil, but there is one, there is another one, and altogether there are 7 little seedlings. 3 seeds still have the chance to germinate. That's why I will keep my pot in my little Ziploc bag here for another day. But as you can see, I already opened it, so to reduce the humidity a little bit, because if there's one thing pseudolithos hate, then it's high humidity. It's the fastest way to kill them. So here is a little first peek at these seeds. So they look kind of funny, but I guess the adult plants also look kind of funny. So here scattered around there are 7 little seedlings, and it looks like 2 more might emerge. So one day later, one more little pseudolithos cubiformis germinated, and now I have 8 little seedlings out of 10 seeds. I think that is a pretty solid germination rate. And now from now on I will keep the soil moist but never wet. I will keep them in the shade and at warm temperatures. But there's one thing that I still need to do. So as you can see, the husk of the seed is still attached to a couple of these little seedlings, and then you can, or I recommend removing them carefully with a little tweezer. Don't pull, because you could damage the root, but if it is kind of loose, then remove these husks, because they are just gonna mold. So this is around about 8 weeks after sowing. So as you can see, these are quite the fast growers. So over here, this one is probably the biggest. Well, it's not, well, 8 millimeters across, and that's just 8 weeks. So I kept watering them bottom watering them every 3 to 4 days, roundabout, depending on the temperature outside. And as you can see, the pot is rather wet. You might see that there is a bit of, well, moss, algae starting to grow. That's all right. That's all right. It doesn't hurt them. And some of them, like this one here or this one, you can already see how the final pattern, like that resembles, I don't know, like reptile skin or something like that. You can already see that emerging. So as you can see, they are quite the fast growers. For now, I will actually keep up the, well, at least for pseudolithos, the heavy dosage of water every 3 to 4 days, but will slowly phase that out so they can adapt to a little bit drier conditions towards the end of this year. But for now, that's an update. As you can see, so cute. So I'm here exactly 12 months later, almost exactly like I said in the introduction. So I planted them at the beginning of April last year, and now it's mid-March. So it has been a somewhat rough winter, and actually it has been colder than usual here in Vienna. And of my original 10 seedlings, only 3 remain. Well, there's a 4th, but it's very shriveled up, and I'm not even sure if it's still alive. So let's talk a little bit about my mistakes and my success. So towards July, so that was last year. So towards July last year, as they started to grow and grow, I kind of stopped watering them every 3 days and maybe watered them once a week, or sometimes even every 2 weeks. And that was a mistake, because I think that was when 3 of them died. And it turns out not only too much water is not good for them, too little is not good for them either. So from then onwards, I continued to water very regularly, like every 3 or 4 days, and they seem to thrive. However, in October, I think I watered them once when temperatures at night were a little bit too cold, and then that was when another 4 of them died. And you know, these seedlings will literally turn into mush within 24 hours, so there is no redemption and there is no rescue possible. From October to March, I didn't water them at all. So previously I had them here under my growth light, but from then onwards I just placed them on a north-facing windowsill here in my apartment, where temperatures never drop below 15 degrees Celsius, even during the night. And they did remarkably well. So the reason why I still watered them in October was because I was scared. I mean, these green little pebbles are so small, and I was just afraid they wouldn't survive winter. But you know, even now in March, early March, they were still kind of plump and not even really shriveled up. So turns out they were okay. Roughly like 10 days ago, temperatures here in Vienna started to rise dramatically again. So here indoors, there were no nights below 20 degrees Celsius anymore, and temperatures during the day were always around 25 degrees, sometimes even higher here indoors. Need to stress that. So I decided to water them. And so what I did is I took my pot and fully submerged it in water, like fully, for around about 2 minutes, not very long. And then I, of course, let all the water drip off. And then I put them here under the growth light again, where the ventilation is, of course, taking care that there is no, prolonged dampness or so. And I mean, that was a week ago. And there were no more casualties, and they within literally 24 hours they turned all nice and plump again. So I think that was the right decision. From here onwards, I will treat them just as any other mature pseudolithos, and water them roughly every 2 weeks, and in high summer possibly every week. And then possibly towards the beginning of the next growing season, I will repot them here in smaller pots, because I think it's always a little bit better to crowd these a little bit into a smaller pot. Looking back, I should have stopped watering them sooner. However, I was kind of afraid, because I was afraid they wouldn't make it through our long European winter. 6 months without watering for such a small seedling. I mean, it's always kind of risky. If you live in a more moderate climate, I mean, you can continue to water like through October and then resume already in February or so, then that's not risky at all. Here I was just afraid, and but it turns out I just should have stopped watering in October and resume in March, and they would probably have been okay. And during the summer months I probably should have not been all that careful either. As long as it's warm and there's good ventilation, even these young seedlings seem to be able to deal with a good amount of water very, very well. Anyway, I mean, I have 3 healthy pseudolithos cubiformis plants here. I actually just need and want one, so I guess I am fine. Anyway, I mean, let me know if you still have any questions, and like and subscribe.